Unus Annus.
We've figured out our physical pain scale, what hurts us the least and what hurts us the most.
But this scale right here, it seems to echo a deeper pain, something not surface level, something that hurts you right in the heart, something that hurts in the mind, something that doesn't appear as a wound, but is a wound on the spirit.
They say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. But sometimes, words hurt the most.
Exactly. What people say, what you say about yourself, what the world is saying to each other, words can hurt.
But they don't hurt on the outside. They hurt on the inside.
On the inside.
And everything else on this list hurts on the inside.
Hurts right here.
So let's see. From no hurt to hurts worse than tears. Maybe even some little just, let's figure out what hurts us in the heart.
Why has this guy gotta be cross-eyed?
I don't know. All right, I'll go first this time. So I'll start off with one of the earliest disappointments of my life, which is when, depending on what age you are watching this video, when I figured out the truth behind the man with the red sack. This was the first time I think I experienced such... The first time I experienced such disappointment in both myself and in my parents. You know, I was so disappointed that they had lied to me for such a long time, but also disappointed in myself that I let them.
You were fooled.
I was fooled. Penn and Teller fooled me. So back then, this hurt like this. But I'm going to put, you know, I sort of had a feeling that it was coming when they were like, Ethan, we have something to tell you.
Did your parents really sit you down for a Santa talk?
They did, actually.
Really? Wow,
Yeah,
that's...
because I was talking a whole lot about Santa, and then they were like, Ethan, I think we should tell you something.
Wow, that's crushing.
Yeah.
I never believed that bastard exists. I
Really?
can't remember a time when I thought that he existed. So in all honesty, like, this is a no hurt for me. If anything, I was this picture, just like happy, no hurt, there's no Santa, no pain. You know, that's how it goes. You know, we talked about it. It'd be remiss of us for us not to put it here. I'm judging this on the capacity for words to hurt me, not just like the words that hurt me at one point. I'm saying generally, words for me in my life, they don't hurt that much because I don't really put much stock into people's criticisms. I'm not really affected by people saying shit about me, unless it's like a trusted friend or someone like that. But even then, I've got so much self-confidence and narcissism going on in my brain that it would have to penetrate like this ironclad shield to affect me in one way or another. So I'm gonna put that right there. Like 3.5-ish.
Yeah, I would have to say for the most part, I feel about the same. You know, there have been times where, sure, words have hurt me.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, especially after doing YouTube for such a long time, you develop a thick skin because people in comments say horrible shit all the time. But for the most part, words have not hurt me a ton, but sometimes they hit different. Some words that did hurt me was when my parents, when I was in high school, I did very bad on my finals, and my parents were incredibly disappointed in me. And so those words did hurt. It did suck seeing my parents be so disappointed. They were also extremely angry. I'm going to put this a little bit above Santa, just because, you know, this was when I was a child. This was a little bit more meaningful. But, you know, see my mom and pops be so sad and disappointed and then, you know, yell at me a little bit. That hurt.
I was in college the first time that I flunked a class. It was my freshman year. Actually, it was my second quarter. We were doing quarters then. And I come home over Christmas and, you know, I show my grades to my parents and, you know, for the most part, you know, there's some classes that were good, but I got a solid F on one because I went to a few too many parties.
Do you remember what class it was?
I don't actually, but it doesn't matter because the look on my father's face, he wasn't mad. He was just as, and boy, howdy, did that suck. 'Cause he just like looked at me like, I expected better out of you.
That's the worst. The expectation is the worst.
Oh, man. All right, so this next one is something that I think a lot of people can relate to. Rejection. The first time that I was rejected. It was band camp.
Oh no.
So it was like 7th grade, or the summer between 7th and 8th grade, and it was a band camp, which, you know, was whatever. Like we were at a camp and we played band, but they organized this like dance. The counselors were like playing matchmaker, and what they would do is they would like, you pair with you and you pair with you, and when you got paired with someone, everyone had a name tag. You'd turn your name tag upside down to show you've been taken. What happened was, like, I turned it upside down, and then she went off, and then she came back like 15 minutes later after talking with her friends. She's like, I don't know if I want to go to the dance with you. So I had to turn my name back right side up. And that hurt. It hurt so bad at the time, but now I can see it's not anywhere close to.
Yeah.
But I'll have to put that like in context. That was like the most painful experience of my life. But right now, it's like 5.
Yeah.
Little above a 5. Looking back, it still wounds me. Whatever your name was, Abigail.
Abigail. I told this story about Abigail in our helium therapy thing. When I told Abigail, like, hey, Abigail, I really like you. Would you like to go out sometime? And Abigail said, well, you know I have feelings for, I think the name was Troy. I was very, very hurt by that. I was like, oh no, I thought we had something, but it turns out you have feelings for Troy. Oh, could you? All right, gymnastics. When was this? I don't know, it was sometime in high school. I went to the qualifiers for nationals, and I missed going to nationals by 0.2 of a point. Now, in gymnastics and judging, you can take 1/10 off for like a slight knee bend or not pointing your toes all the way. So it was incredibly close. If I was just like a little cleaner, or I did fall on one event, so if I hadn't have fallen, but it was 0.2 of a point, I didn't get to go to nationals. There were 8 spots on the national team. I was number 9.
Would you have gone to the Olympics?
The Olympics?
Yeah, would you have gone to the Olympics?
Man, I wonder. No, I wouldn't have gone to the Olympics. I wasn't that good.
So. Yeah, I
thought so. Okay, all right.
And another sport-related thing, I started wrestling at a young age. Not this young, but at a young age.
Is that you? Man.
Yeah. That kind of looks like me, actually. I don't remember what age specifically, but I remember my first match very vividly, which is funny because I don't remember the actual match itself. I remember before and I remember after. And what happened was, have you ever seen wrestling or like real wrestling? Yeah. So you line up, you shake hands, and then the ref's like, go, and then you wrestle. I remember, go. And then I was on the ground. The crushing disappointment when afterwards I learned that my first wrestling match ever lasted 8 seconds.
Oh.
Was heart crushing.
Let's go to one of the sadder ones.
Yeah.
The first time a pet died. I'd like to take a moment to just appreciate this picture that you found.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. Look at them all.
They're beautiful.
You know, that's where all our former pups are.
Across the
Playing
Rainbow
Frisbee.
Bridge.
I thought that was supposed to be a dog for a second. Okay. All right. My first dog ever. She was a glorious Portuguese water dog named Cooper. She was wonderful. She was my first dog ever. I picked out her name and everything. She was a really, really great dog. We had to put her down when I was like 16, maybe? That really hurt a lot. That was also like my first actual meaningful death that I ever had, because in my life, like, I haven't had a lot of deaths. Even to this day, I've only experienced death a couple of times, but that was the first like real death. Because, like, say what you want about dogs and comparing them to people, but for me, a dog is just like another family member. And I had grown up with this dog. And so it was really, really hard when we put her down. So that was really sad. So that was a whole lot of emotional pain.
I remember the first pet that we had that passed away. Her name was Heidi. She wasn't our first pet, but it's the first one I remember. Unfortunately, going across the Rainbow Bridge, she fell down the stairs. And it was crushing. I was like maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7. I don't remember, but that was just wounding. But at the same time, I was also too young to really understand it. Like, I felt the pain, but I didn't know what was going on. So I have to put that like a 6.78. And since then, like, a pet dying for me is like it's very sad, but also I understand now that I'm an adult, like pets just have a shorter lifespan.
Yeah.
That's why you got to cherish them while they're there. And just don't go hug Chica after
Well,
this.
I'll go hug Spencer. Speaking of dogs, this isn't the same kind of heartbreak, but when I first got Spencer, I had taken him out and then I went to bed and I was crate training him at the time. And so I put him in his crate and he started whining. And I was like, oh, he probably just like doesn't want to be in his crate. I just took him out. He's fine. And then I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and he had shit in his crate and he had poop all over him and he was just sitting there really scared and obviously uncomfortable, and I felt so sad. And so I took him out and he did his business. And then the worst part is I went to go and give him a bath immediately, and for some reason there was no hot water, so I had to give him a bath in freezing cold water. It was so sad. It was so sad. This is like up here. I just felt so awful.
In terms of personal failure, a lot of people know I was in marching band. Not a lot of people know that I was first chair in marching band. So I had the solos in marching band. And it just so happens that our show had solos in it. Not nationals, regionals. We're playing, you know, our high school is not the greatest, but we're pretty decent. We're like in the mid-range of marching bands. So we're performing our show and it gets to the solo. Fuck it up. It's going higher. I'm reliving it. I fucked it up.
Well, how did you fuck it up? Like, did you just miss it, or did you just screw up the notes?
So like for some reason, like this solo in particular, it's not a complicated. It goes da 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 da. I remember. And just like for some reason, I was just having trouble with it every single time because it's the opening of the show.
Yeah.
The opening of the show, and it's just you hear it's just so bad.
I'm going to go with this one. There's nothing that hurts more than seeing your friends have a ton of fun without you. There are plenty of things that hurt way more than that, but that is a painful thing. What hurts even more is when they're having fun without you with your dad. I went to a party with my dad when I was like 18 or 19, and I just wasn't having a good time. And so I went to leave, and people just didn't really pay attention. And these were all like my very, very good friends. And my dad was having a great time, and they were all having a great time with my dad. And so I left. And as I was going home, I was just like, they would rather hang out with my dad than me. And I was so upset. I didn't talk to my dad for like a week. That was rough. Not as rough as rejection. Actually, it was a little more rough than rejection.
Hey, but you got a cool dad.
Yeah, I do have a cool dad.
Everyone's texting your dad behind your back. Time to get real. Speaking of dads. This is like, there's no way to make this funny, guys.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. There's nothing funny about this, except this picture is funny. Alexis Cripstone, this is his father. This is probably the most emotionally painful thing in my life. This was painful because like it fucked me up for such a long time because I didn't address it. I never emotionally addressed it. I lashed out at the people around me because of it, and I kind of secluded myself away and wouldn't like come to terms with it. Like my dad died, and then for a week after I felt fine. It's such a big thing that you can't physically process it, so you just have to let it sit, or at least that was my like mentality, but I didn't even realize it was happening at the time. I went to work like a week after. I was literally standing there looking at the pile of wood. I was a carpenter at the time. I had no idea how long I was there. I looked at my clock and I was like, I'd been staring at it for an hour. And my boss, thankfully, was just like letting me go because he's like, he knows I just lost my dad. And then I go over to him and I'm just like, look, I'm not doing any work. You shouldn't pay me if I'm not gonna do anything, so I'm just gonna go home. And he's like, yeah, man, dude, go.
Yeah.
I don't even know why you were here today.
Yeah.
For like a year afterwards, I was still just this angry, insular guy. And it wasn't until I dealt with it and actually addressed the problem that I was able to come out of that. But that's easily the worst pain. Not like the most condensed worst emotional pain, but because of how long it took.
To get deep with a similar photo, my grandmother died. Granny? Is that you? My grandmother died a little over a year ago. It was a year in August. And my grandmother was a huge part of my life. My grandparents lived like 2 doors down from me ever since I was like 3 or 4 years old. And so after school, when my parents were still at work, I would go over to my grandmother's house basically every day. You met my grandmother. She asked you so many questions.
She did. She did. She was real sweet though.
Yeah, she was super, super sweet. But that was the first, like, other than my dog, that was like the first real death that I had ever dealt with before. And that one like hit me on the day that she passed away. I broke down a little bit, but I didn't actually start to process it until a while later, because I think that like when it happens, there's so much going on. It doesn't really set in that the person is gone and that you're not like gonna see them again or anything like that. And so it takes a bit for your brain to like really process it. Even like the other day, I randomly just like thought of her and instantly started crying. It was super, super weird. And it's been such a long time. And like day to day, it doesn't really like affect me. And like I miss her a lot. But sometimes with stuff like this, like you just randomly will get these like, oh, I'm thinking of this person and suddenly I'm crying. Okay, weird.
I'm past that point with my dad. I don't get that. I haven't had that for a long time. Right now, if I think about my dad, like I only think of like the good times I had. And there's only like a little bit of nostalgia that I'm like, I wish you could have seen me as a YouTuber.
Yeah.
But then again, considering all the Unus Annus videos we made, maybe it's best that he's not. So that's fine. And what's funny is like, I don't look back at that type of memory and I don't feel the same way as I do about marching band. Yeah. I don't know why. This one sticks out so much more like to that. Like for loss, it's like once you address it, maybe I haven't addressed my marching
maybe you got to address that, dude.
Do we have to do a video where I redo my solo?
Yep. You got to address it, man.
I don't know if I can. I'd have to go back to my high school.
You can do it.
I would just fuck it up again. I haven't played trumpet in years.
Was it at your high school that it happened?
No, it was in Indianapolis. I would just have to go into the Indianapolis Colts Stadium, which is where it was.
That's a football stadium.
Yeah, I know.
Was it filled with people?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was regional.
God.
There were even other marching band people there, so there's other trumpeters who were like, oh, what a fuck up. That school can't even get a good trumpeter.
All right, now the most painful thing of all. If you don't know this photo, this is how Mark and I met. In a panel in 2014, I wanted Mark's attention real bad. And so I waved Bob down. Bob came over to me and I was like, I have to do a backflip for Mark. Right. I have to. And so I went up, I tried to go up on stage. Mark blocked me from going up on stage. And so I did a backflip.
Why don't we just play the video?
This is my marching band.
This
is my marching band.
There's still wax in my hair. I'm just gonna mohawk it. Hey, in honor of this memory and the time, it's back to shark fin Markiplier.
Perfect. Wait, I gotta come back there?
No, stay there. He's gonna run up to you.
I was about to run. Oh, he's gonna come to me.
I'm not about to run.
Security!
Wow.
Security! Security!
God. Oh, and then I hugged Sean.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, I see. Oh, no, you got yours. You hugged Jack.
God.
I'm fine. What do you want?
Fine.
Don't hurt me again.
You're backflip dude. So he did a backflip last year.
Oh, that was the first time that I ever met you. I did a backflip. God damn it.
Oh wow. Oh. This is the second time?
Second time.
Back.
Yeah, this is 2015.
Don't kill yourself. Don't kill yourself.
God. God. Oh, and then I clapped for myself. Oh, God.
Wow. That's
I hate it.
yeah, and it's not like
really hate it.
It's not that bad.
I think about this all the time. All the time, and it doesn't help that other people know it exists.
Get out of here, Grandma.
Get out of here, Granny. You know, I love you, but this is more painful.
So we got to go back to Boston, and I have to do a backflip for you to even it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go to PAX East this year.
Why don't we just recreate it here?
We'll do our own panel here in
Invite
California.
some friends over and just.
God, we hold an event.
Right.
But there's nothing other than that. It's like 15 seconds long.
No, it's a 2-act. It's like I do my marching band and then you do your.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah, that's about all we've got.
Pretty much it.
I mean, I've got my high school breakup, but
Yeah,
you know, I'll
and
just
divorce and
long
stuff.
story short, this hurt like hell. Divorce. I was a kid, but you know, divorce. It's all right up here.
There's nothing else in here. I had divorce. That was pretty painful. Probably like here. Because I could see it coming, and I knew that my parents weren't happy. So, and I was old enough. I was like 16, so I could figure it out. But that's emotional pain for you.
I think the general consensus here and the lesson to take away is that the grouping of emotional pain is, I think, trends a lot higher than physical pain.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, emotional pain really hurts.
Yeah.
And it sticks with you. Whereas physical pain, and that's why like I'm fine with physical pain, is because I know it's temporary for the most of the time. I'm not gonna get myself into a situation where I'm permanently hurting myself. So if it's just temporary pain, I'm like, whatever, I'll deal with it. But emotional pain, that hurts you to your core. That hurts who you are.
Yeah. I'd rather get shot with a paintball gun so many times.
We should have ranked this by paintball hits. You need to get hit first, though.
Well, do we?
So that's emotional pain. If you guys want to make your own emotional pain scale, you feel free to. Don't feel like you need to share anything. But it's a good way to get perspective on like what mattered in your life and what was really important to you.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We'll be holding an event where we address this pain and deal with it finally, because that's the most important thing. You know, when you break a bone, when you have a strain, you take the time to heal. But a lot of people don't take that time they need to heal with things like this. And again, sometimes emotional pain, in fact, in most cases, is worse than physical. So why don't we take the same time to heal?
Pain just means you're alive.